Morning, everyone. Boker Tov. We're continuing Siman Reish Nun Gimel. Now we're up to Seif Gimel, talking about the laws still of Chazara. And the Shulchan Aruch says as follows: Hamashkim b'boker, if a person wakes up in the morning on Shabbat, v'ra'a sheikdicha tafshilo, v'yarei pen yakdichu yoter. He sees that his Dafina, his chamin, is, let's say, burning, and he's worried that it's going to burn even more. Yachol le'asir ulaniach kedera yeshana rekanit al pi akira. You're allowed to lift up your dafina, and you're allowed to put an empty pot under it, and then and then you take your dafina, you put it on top of that empty pot. So now it's a little bit distant from the fire. So it's going to be, therefore, it's going to take slower to be hot and not burn your food. You have to make sure, like the laws of Chazara, that you don't put down the dafina onto the floor, and that you make sure that it's still boiling hot. So you're allowed to take it for a moment. Someone put another pot there, a thin pot or a thin piece of metal, and then to separate it from the fire so that it doesn't burn even more. So that's what's going on over here. You maybe need two people to help you, right? But that's what one could do. Now, it's interesting, number one, is that the Shulchan Aruch says, a kedera yeshana. You take an old pot to put over there. What does that mean, an old pot? What's going on over here? So, because back in the day, the metal pots were maybe we even remember, like tin, very thin, and sometimes over the time of using it to be cooked, then it got stronger and fortified even more. So therefore, if you take a new tin on Shabbat, you're actually helping the building of that tin, of that pan on Shabbat, and that's an issue. Nowadays, our pots and pans are already fully complete, and when you put it on the fire, it doesn't get any better, and therefore you could use any type of kli for this. And so too, if let's say the kli is made out of cheres, pottery, there's opinions that say, well, maybe it's now going to increase heat. Now you're making more heat in your house because now you've heated this thing up. That's not an issue. If you use a glass Pyrex, that's also not an issue. And if a person uses plastic or wood kli, then it's just not smart because they'll melt or whatever. So you just don't want to use that. So any type of kli in this situation is allowed. Now again, we have to remember the laws of Chazara is that this thing is still lach. It still has liquid in it. This item, this dafina. And naturally, I wouldn't be allowed to put it on a hot plate on Shabbat because it's wet. But because the laws of Chazara is that it's as if I'm returning it to its original state. It's still cooking. And if I take on Shabbat and I take a thing of liquid, a soup or a dafina, and just put it directly on the hot plate or on a heat source, hey, that looks like you're cooking it on Shabbat, or maybe you are cooking it on Shabbat, and that's not allowed. But here with the laws of Chazara, it's still boiling hot, it's still in the cooking stage, so I move it for a moment, someone puts a thing there, or I move it for a moment, and we spoke about different cases, and I put it on, it's a continuous thing of my cooking. And just to talk about, it's something we spoke about yesterday, where you could take, it doesn't even have to go back to that heat source, but it could go back to a neighbor's heat source. Let's say there's a blackout or whatever it is. So actually we had a case recently at home where our dafina was in the crock pot, and we're worried that maybe it's not going to be, it's going to be too hot and it's going to maybe burn it. So it's actually Shabbat morning. So I told my wife that when the hot plate goes on, she could take the dafina and put it onto the hot plate, and now not to let it go, not to put it on the ground. All these laws, hold it the whole time, and take it from the hot plate to put it on so it's going to be a lesser heat. And this is the type of thing here as well, where you're putting something that's going to be a lesser heat to make sure that it doesn't burn. We actually had it just a couple weeks ago. Okay, that's that for today. Baruch haba to Mr. Shokron from Venezuela, the Caracas. You have some Caracas friends here, and maybe you met the other one. So Baruch haba, enjoy your time here in Toronto. And that's that. Mincha at 6:35. Have a good day, everyone. Tana de Vilio.